Hello again, everybody. Welcome to Sports and Money. I am Benjamin Parker. It is a privilege to have you on board today, wherever you're watching from around the world. Thank you so much for taking the time. Hope you're having a great day. We've got a lot to get to on this video. I'm going to cram a lot in. We have so many moving parts to take a look at. I'm going to try to keep the video from getting too long for people who don't really like long, extended videos, but we're going to go in depth. We're going to try to keep it as simple as possible, make it as plain as possible. Mr. Shahid Khan, the guy over my right shoulder, caused quite a stir lately on both sides of the pond when he made a bid on a particular piece of real estate in London, England. Who is Shahid Khan? Well, for those of you who don't know, he is worth $7.4 billion. That is his net worth. He came over from Pakistan to America when he was 16 years old, got into the automobile parts business. From there was able to build and expand until he has a net worth of $7.4 billion. That number changes from day to day. Usually it continues to go up. It does not usually go down. Not only does Shahid Khan have a tremendous net worth, he also owns the Fulham Football Club, which is based in London, largely plays in London, England. He purchased that a handful of years ago for $300 million. It was undervalued at the time. He has built it up. He could probably sell it for a lot more now if he chose to do so. He also happens to own the NFL's Jacksonville Jaguars football team, which he bought a handful of seasons ago as well for $770 million. He could probably, if he wanted to, sell that team now again for probably twice this amount. He would probably be looking at least $1.5 billion if he chose to sell that team at this point, which I don't think that he's interested in doing. So he really bought both of these places at undervalue and has seen those values go up. Now, for $7.4 billion, you can pretty much buy anything in the world you want to buy. What is Mr. Khan wanting to buy at this time? Wembley Stadium, located in London, England. Now, Wembley Stadium has a tremendously historic name. For those of you who know your football, and that's the stadium right there. It is a beautiful place. This is not the old stadium. This is a new stadium that was built, finished in 2007. They did a long, multi-year demo of the old stadium, and on the same site built this new stadium. It holds 90,000 people. It is large. It is beautiful. It can accommodate tremendous crowds. 90,000 is much larger than you will see most stadiums in America these days for football or baseball or any other thing for that matter. The cost to British folks back then in 2007 was £757 million. That is part of a price that they are still paying on. They project that they could, if they do not sell this stadium, pay off this debt by 2024. Mr. Khan is wanting to buy Wembley Stadium. Now, what's the price for that? What is the offer for that? £600 million is the number that you hear most consistently. Some of you might say, wait a second, Ben, I've heard that it was £500 million, and that is true. There are conflicting reports. You do hear the £500 million as well as the £600 million, but the most consistent number that continues to pop up as you read and study and listen is that $600 million. That translates to roughly $800 million US dollars. Now, some of you might say, wait a second, Ben, I've also heard that this offer could be worth as much as $1.2 billion. Where is that number coming from? And glad you asked. The $800 million is part of that $1.2 billion, but we come down here to an ominous looking thing called the FA. What is the FA? The FA is the Football Association. They are based in England as well. They are a body, a governing body, if you will, that has been trying to promote soccer in London and to build up the national sports and to do that at the grassroots level. Part of that was their involvement in Wembley Stadium and buying that and doing the rebuild on that quite a number of years ago. That began in the late 90s. Now, we're sidetracking here. The Football Association, they also happen to own something called Club Wembley. What is Club Wembley? Club Wembley is the hospitality and the food and beverage business that exists at Wembley Station. That hospitality business, entitled Club Wembley, is valued at $400 million. If this deal goes through, if Shahid Khan is actually able to purchase Wembley Stadium, he would not be getting Club Wembley. The Football Association would keep control of Club Wembley and that 400 value. So you take the $400 million and the $800 million, put that together, that is your $1.2 billion price tag for those of you who have heard the high end of this potential bid offer from Shahid Khan. Now, what does Shahid Khan get for $1.2 billion, part of it in cash and part of it in the business that is going to stay with the Football Association? Good thing you asked. You got four things. Number one, he gets a tremendous piece of real estate. He gets one of the most key pieces of real estate in the world, based in a major city with a major stadium, a relatively new stadium. Now, he has admitted that it needs some upgrades in terms of video boards and lounges, but other than that, this stadium is ready to go. He has said that he would like to put the Super Bowl here possibly. He would like to put as well the World Cup here. He's got a tremendous piece of real estate to do it. There are people who are saying, some of them smarter than I am, that 600 million pounds or the $1.2 billion, whichever way you want to slice it, is actually a relatively low price, a relatively good deal for Mr. Khan, and that there are people out there who would be willing to pay more if the Football Association were willing to go ahead and put this up for auction and let people bid on it. Be that as it may, Mr. Khan has a very valuable piece of real estate now if this deal actually goes through. Not only that, he's going to have a tremendous amount of money coming his way. No matter what event he puts in here, if he puts in more NFL football games or the Super Bowl or more concerts or the World Cup, he is going to be able to pack it out with 90,000 people. He will be getting the parking money. He will be getting the tickets. He will be getting all of that is not associated with Club Wembley. He's going to be getting a tremendous amount of money from that. He's also going to have options. He's got a tremendous amount, and this is huge. This is what I call strategic positioning, and it is very well done. When you look at this deal from Mr. Khan, there are a number of things that are really good about this, and he has them. If he ever wants to, he can move in due course of time. He could move the Jacksonville Jaguars over to London, the football team. If he wanted to make different deals with different soccer teams, not just Fulham, but other soccer teams at the stadium, he can do that as well. If he ever decides to sell the place, he can probably sell it for a lot more than what he has, what he's about to put in it. He has quite a number of options there that he can do. He can even partner with the NFL if they want to put more games over in London. He can use that as well. He has quite a number of options. Now, number four, clout. It's almost hard to say that with a straight face. Why would somebody with a net worth of $7.4 billion need to buy anything in order to get more clout? Let me explain. We've already seen somebody like Jerry Jones, who for the past 2 decades has been high-flying in turning the Dallas Cowboys into one of the most recognized brands in the world, and he owns the Dallas Cowboys. We're used to somebody with his flair. In recent months, we have seen Stan Kroenke of the formerly St. Louis Rams, now the Los Angeles Rams, who is about to build a megatropolis in Los Angeles for his Rams football team. And he is getting a ton of visibility and a ton of clout that comes with that. Shahid Khan, all of a sudden, even if this deal doesn't go through, he has gotten a tremendous amount of visibility both in London, England, and in America. A lot of people who didn't know him before all of a sudden know him now. He is now on their radar, if that matters to him at all. He is going to have a tremendous amount of visibility as the owner of Wembley, as the owner of Jacksonville, combined with Fulham. You are going to see not less of this, you are going to see more of this. You are going to see more NFL owners with vastly deep pockets who want to take an NFL team and either try to partly or completely move it to a big city somewhere around the world. London is simply the start. This is where the NFL has decided to start their international program. We'll get more into that in just a minute. Those are the things that Mr. Khan can get out of this, in addition to all that he wants to actually do with the stadium in future years. Now, what do the Jacksonville Jaguars think about this? What do the fans think about this? Is the potential there for the team to move completely over into London? They're already playing 1 game a year in London. Is Mr. Khan about to actually move the Jaguars football team completely over to London? Now, Shahid Khan has denied this. He has repeatedly said that he is not planning on doing that at this time, that he has invested a lot of money in Jacksonville. Let's start with that. TIAA Bank Field. Most of you probably know it as Everbank. It is from now on going to be called TIAA Bank Field. They have had a name change. Shahid Khan has invested $76 million of his own money into that stadium, into upgrading that stadium. On top of that, he has partnered with the city in a $2.0 billion investment in the surrounding area in Jacksonville. So, even though he didn't put in all of that $2 billion, he has put in a tremendous amount of money into TIAA Bank Field as well as into the surrounding Jacksonville area. So, the idea that he is all of a sudden going to just up and abandon Jacksonville is very unlikely. And he has repeatedly said he is invested in the Jacksonville area. He wants to be a part of the Jacksonville area for the foreseeable future. He does not want to move the Jaguars out of there. Having said that, it is not unlikely and not unheard of that the Jacksonville Jaguars will be playing more games over in London, and in maybe a decade or so, you might even see the entire team move over there. Now, how many games can they play in London right now? They can only play 2. NFL rules state that you can only play 2 games away from your home stadium. So I suspect if you're a Jaguars fan, you can probably look to see over the next couple of seasons, you can probably expect to see the Jaguars play 2 games a year over in London, probably almost immediately. That would be no surprise. How are they doing over there? When the Jacksonville Jaguars, and they have a contract right now to play all the way through 2020, 1 game a year. They're averaging 83,000 fans over there in London. So they're not filling up the 90,000 seat stadium, but they are doing a really good job. Who knows if the football fans in London had one team that they could root for, one team that they could see consistently all the time, that attendance number might grow, especially if the Jaguars were to market that area even more specifically. I think they could start getting over into 90,000 seat sellouts pretty quickly. Well, so what you're seeing here for Jacksonville, I think you're going to see immediately go to 2 games. Now, the NFL, if they wanted to, could try to bull rush it and push it through and give Jacksonville more games, but the NFL Players Association is going to put the brakes on that just a little bit. Now, what is the NFL Players Association? Why should they care, and why would they have any authority in this matter? The NFLPA is the union for the players. They are the ones who interact on behalf of the players and say, wait a second, you can't do this. Why would they have anything to say about this? Number one, you have travel inconveniences for the players. Anytime you send players overseas to any other place besides the United States of America, you are asking them to spend a lot more time on planes, a lot more time in other cultures, a lot more time in different time zones, so you have greater travel inconveniences for the players. Also, even though London is a relatively safe place, you still have security issues. Anytime you leave the base of America and you go to other cities, other places, you just have heightened security issues. So the NFL Players Association is not going to try to stop the Jacksonville Jaguars from playing more games in London. They are simply going to try to ask for more money because they're putting greater inconveniences on the players, not just the Jaguars team, but whoever goes over to play them. If the Jaguars play more games in London in coming seasons, the Players Association, and listen, you've got a CBA coming up in 2020. The collective bargaining agreement ends then. You're going to have all kinds of new things to discuss. This will be on the table. The NFL Players Association will try to use this as leverage to get more money out of the NFL because they're saying, hey, you were asking the players to do more. They are being inconvenienced. They have greater security issues, more time away from their families. This is more leverage that the Players Association can use. They will not be against this. But DeMaurice Smith, the head of the Players Union, he is very intelligent and he will be all over this. And certainly they would just try to get their slice of the pie. So in future years, you will see, I suspect, the Jaguars play as many as 4 games in London, maybe after 2020. Maybe in 2021, 2022, you will start to see the Jacksonville Jaguars play as many as 4 games over in London. You may even just see them spend a whole month over in London. 4 consecutive games in London might be something that you would see. It's a whole new way to rethink the NFL. It is radically different. Why would the NFL do this? Because there's money to be made there. There's money to be made in London, England. You have a fan base that is untapped. You have a market that is untapped, and it is just the beginning. The NFL would love to have a presence, a marketable presence in quite a number of cities all throughout Europe and throughout the world if they can get it. London is just simply the start of that. So the NFL would really like to see that happen. London is just the start of it, and this is where they're working on. So 2 games for now. I suspect after the 2020 CBA, you're going to watch this grow to 4 games, probably 4 games all in a row. Now, does this mean that Jacksonville will only have 4 home games? Not necessarily. You might actually see Jacksonville, the city, get 6 home games, plus the Jaguars get 4 games in London. Now, that means some NFL team will lose a couple of home games. You might say, Ben, why in the world would any team in the NFL be willing to play 7 games at home instead of 8? Why would any team in the world? Well, they're already doing it. This is already happening every single year. Some NFL team is having to give up their home game in order to play a game in London. For every game that the Jacksonville Jaguars are designated over in London, somebody is having to give up that home game. In this case, it would be the Jaguars, but whoever the Jaguars will be playing in the future, they might be able to give up their home games if there was a lot of money at stake, and that is the point. This is all about money. The NFL knows that there's a tremendous amount of money. They also know that even though they're still far and away the top sport in America, they also know that they have their struggles. They have taken some public image hits recently over a number of different issues. They have watched their viewership actually decrease somewhat in the United States. So to be able to tap into international markets, to be able to go into Europe, to be able to go to London, to be able to even go to the Far East, this is something the NFL wants to see. This is something they want to do. The NBA has lapped the field when it comes to North American sports overseas, but the NBA does not actually play a lot of actual real basketball overseas. They've just marketed themselves really well. The NFL is actually planning to play these games overseas. London is just the beginning. So that's what you're going to see. A couple more questions and we're done. What about Fulham FC? How do they feel about this? This probably will not affect them at all. Fulham FC, oddly enough, does not actually play in Wembley. Even though Khan is trying to buy them, Fulham FC actually plays in Craven Cottage. That will not change a lot. I didn't have room really to put it on the board. The Tottenham Hotspur play here. Khan has said that will probably not change, that their 10-year agreement with Wembley will all likely continue. The national teams that play in England, they will continue to play here at Wembley as well. There are about 30 events a year here. I think Khan's looking to increase that. I think he has spotted a good value, and he has the pockets deep enough to actually take advantage of it. So that's what you're seeing here from Jacksonville, for Fulham, for TIAA Bank. I think Jacksonville is probably going to be able to keep 6 home games a year. The NFL will simply designate 4 Jacksonville games, 2 of them home, 2 of them road in the future as well. And that's what you're looking to see from Shahid Khan. So we put a lot in there. Hope we didn't confuse you too much. Thank you so much for watching. This is Sports and Money. I'm Ben Parker. We'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye.